Okay, here we have kind of the last big definition about functions for this course. We're going to talk about what it means for a function to be an inverse of another function. So here's the definition. An inverse undoes what the function or relation did in the first place. It takes the output back to the input. Okay, well, remember when we first started talking about functions and I told you they were like a machine? So let's say we have this machine f of x. And you put in x values and you get out y values. Well, we now want a new function, and we're going to call that the inverse function. And what the inverse is going to do, it's going to take out whatever you're going to put in the y, whatever you got out of the first function, and you'll get out the x. Okay, it kind of goes backwards. So for example, let's say that our function was just x squared. Okay, so you put in 2 and you get out 4. Well, our inverse function is you're going to put in 4 and it's going to be a function that you get out 2. Okay. So if we remember, we talked about tables of values. So if this is our f of x right here, and we look at it as a table. So here we're saying you put in -2, you got out 2. You put in 0, you got out 4. You put in 3, you got out 7. So this was kind of what was in, and this is what came out. Well, for inverses, those swap. Here now, if we put in 2, we're going to get out -2. Okay, your x's and your y's switched. Okay. So if in equation form, the original equation was x plus 4. Okay, so that's what this f of x was, x plus 4. Well, how could we write an equation here for the inverse? Well, we could say y equals, let's look at what's happening. So we have 2, and then we go to -2. 4, and then we go to 0. 7, we go to 3. We're subtracting 4. We're kind of doing the opposite. So we'd say x minus 4. Okay, now to find the inverse for a relation, we'll talk about functions specifically, but relations are really just kind of any equations, remember. You're just going to interchange the variables. So anywhere where you had an x, you would put a y. Anywhere where you had a y, you'd put an x. So here our original equation was y equals x plus 4. If we switch them, that becomes x equals y plus 4. And if we wanted to solve for y, subtract 4 from both sides, we would get what we just talked about, y equals x minus 4. Okay, so real quick here, we're going to get some practice finding the inverses. When you're just talking about a relation, you don't have to solve for y. You can just switch them. So really simple here, nothing too tricky. If we have y equals x squared minus 3x, the inverse will just be x equals y squared minus 3y. We're just switching the x and the y. And here where we have x cubed y equals 8, we would have y cubed x equals 8.